Nope.
24 hours.
Out of the box, it won't do that.
All right, we're gonna go. Call this meeting to order. We're gonna do the, oh. Do I have to do this over? I just did the gavel. All right, we can do the walking pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next up, we'll do a roll call. Alderman Lewis.
Here.
Alderman Wilson.
Here.
Alderwoman Old. Here. Alderman Bradford.
Here.
Alderman Holkart.
Here.
I will note that I am here and that the mayor is absent. All right. I will entertain a motion to approve the September 20, 2022 meeting minutes.
I'll make that.
Okay, Alderman Bradford has made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Wilson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is approved. Let's go to approval of tonight's agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
The motion was made by Alderman Bradford. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Alderman Lewis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. We do not have any special items tonight or appointments. We do have scheduled public comments. So, is that you, sir? All right, if you would come to the podium and state your name and your address. And I think our typical thing is 3 minutes, so I will set a timer. It's not a hard cutoff, but
Okay.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Yep. Jim Fasciotti, 503 Eagle Lakes. Liberty and Old 63, traffic congestion in the morning. I understand the city is considering hiring somebody to take care of this traffic.
School's posted that job position.
School doing that?
Yes.
Lynn Wolford himself told me that he's offered his services in that gratis, and it was turned down. You guys aware of that? Do you know who Lynn Wolford is?
Oh, yes.
He's nationally recognized for his talents in directing traffic, right? He did it for years. And he's offered his services to the mayor, and the mayor turned it down. Mayor shouldn't be making decisions like that without you guys. You guys are the power, not him. So you guys weren't aware of this?
I don't know.
Would you have any interest in talking to Lynn about it? Save the school? I mean, this is a guy that's offering his services, and he's good at it.
I will note, typically, the public comment session isn't a question and answer, so whatever, if your recommendation is for us to contact Lynn or for Lynn to contact us, we'll take that recommendation. But I'd like to hear more from you about the traffic congestion and what things you think might help that.
I have a hearing issue. Speak up.
Sure. I was just going to say, typically for public comment, it's not a question and answer, so we ask.
I got that.
Yeah. So if you have additional suggestions, if your recommendation is for us to reach out to Mr. Wolford or for him to reach out to us, we'd accept that. And if you have other recommendations, we're happy to take those under advisement.
Well, I was under a misunderstanding. I thought the city was looking to hire somebody, but you're saying it's the school is going to be hiring this service? Right. Then, as long as the city's not paying for something that they could be getting for free, I don't think it's a good use of our money. I don't have any recommendations.
And can I add something?
Sure.
To be clear, the school is not hiring a traffic director. They're hiring somebody as a crossing guard. So they won't be actually out directing traffic. They won't do anything for the congestion. So.
I can't ask questions, so. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Any other comments on that? No? Okay.
I just thought we had discussed before that it was maybe not necessarily a city problem per se. I know that's a rough way to say it, but I mean, I think we kind of had discussed before is that like that's a school issue, even though it is on city streets.
So, I mean, without getting too far out into the weeds of what we've discussed with the school, at least twice so far this year, we have requested that the school give consideration to administration, both old and new, and both times it was a no.
I was astounded to learn, I just knew there had to be a statute about crossing guards, because they're obviously going to get hit occasionally, and there's not. And so I cringe at the thought of, I mean, when I was in school, little kids did it, the safety patrol. But I worry about the liability risk, I worry about state actors and whether or not they, extend their authority and try and pretend to be policemen. I was just very concerned about the whole idea. Somebody needs to write a statute for crossing guards, but there isn't one. So.
Well, that's what I wondered, because in the past, I think, I'm not sure about Lena exactly if she was, acting on behalf of the city per se, or the school. I mean, she was just volunteering, but the people that they have out there now are people that are contacted by the school. Mr. Carr, Coach Carr has done it when Mr. Burkett is not available, at least at the, whatever you call the flashing.
RFPs?
Yeah.
So right now, I guess our recommendation then would be if you have concerns about school traffic, then you probably want to address those to the school.
I mean, obviously, we did a TEEP study over the last year to try and improve that intersection. That's a multi-million-dollar project. It's not going to happen overnight. As we continue to see development on that intersection, we will have the opportunity to implement some of those changes. But in terms of things that can be done right now, obviously contacting the school, perhaps talking to some school board members about possibly looking at staggered start times would certainly lend towards alleviating some of the congestion.
And I will echo an anecdotal thing that Nathan has been harping on lately. After COVID, people started taking their kids to school as opposed to bus, and they haven't shifted back to the bus very much. All of our towns have not experienced the shift back onto buses that they had hoped for.
Well, we even had communication that, I'm sure you got it because you have kids that are school age, but we had communication from the superintendent that if you could take your kids to school, please do, because they're short on bus drivers. It stopped short of saying you have to and that we're absolutely desperate kind of a thing, but it said more or less, if you can, please do, because with out-of-school activities that require bus drivers and those kinds of things, like there's just not enough staff to always go around, and I'm sure that that's got a little something to do with it as well.
See, and I was wondering the same thing. I don't recall getting that communication, but, with the 47 emails I get a day from the school, I don't always get them all read. So that's a difficulty for me. However, I don't understand why, unless you are just like a glutton for punishment, I don't understand why anyone would send their kid not on the bus. My kids ride the bus, they do fine. I think it's ridiculous that the buses pick kids up within a mile because they don't do that in other communities. It's a luxury we have here.
It's 3 miles in, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the, like...
There's bus policies that could help.
Where we live, which is probably outside of a mile, but not by a ton, the school bus comes by at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Which is pretty darn early for an 8 o'clock start.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So and obviously the school district, or the bus routes are a lot farther out and kind of make their way back into town, but
yeah.
I do get, when I was growing up here, there was less traffic, but I was a school drop-off in the morning till I could drive and a ride the bus home in the afternoon kind of kid, which is what a lot of people were, I think.
Well,
And I've not experienced the morning traffic as much, but I pick up my first grade granddaughter every day after, and I'm amazed at how smooth it works.
In the morning traffic, I'll tell you what, it's about a 20-minute window when it's not ideal. Because I know if I leave my house 2 minutes too late, I might be backed up down Y, trying to even get to the roundabout. But if we're 2 minutes early,
right through.
right through. It's just a
Matter of timing.
It's just a little window where it gets really bad and then it's gone.
Takes one person trying to make a left in Casey's, right?
Well, yeah, usually honestly what it does is it usually takes a dump truck or a FedEx truck or something trying to get into a roundabout, and that because everybody kind of goes slightly faster than normal, and those vehicles can't get up to speed very quickly.
I do, a couple people have reached out to me over the about traffic concerns, specifically that morning traffic, and I guess, in my mind, there should be a community discussion in a forum in which people could ask questions and express concerns and offer ideas. I know sometimes we kind of have a workshop. I think encouraging the school to have a traffic bus workshop where they invite members from the public to come share their concerns and where people's questions could get answered. Is there a shortage of bus drivers? Should we be encouraging more people to ride the bus? You know, because I think the city's getting blamed for it a lot, and the school people, I would say, there are people within, you know, that are more, anyway, there are people who I feel like have been asking me to do something that really, you know, if it's really the school's prerogative, then we need to make that clear to the community too, because I think people are confused right now.
We've had meetings with school officials recently and discussed this very topic. We've identified, showed to them what that TEAP study, what the results of that study were, along with some various options that would help reduce the traffic congestion. But all of them cost money. I mean, all of them require access road to be placed here, or connection of red tail through private property, or implementation of a roundabout. So, I mean, that's, at the end of the day, it just comes down to those numbers. I mean, who's willing to pony up for it?
I mean, drop your kid off at the Y and have one person walk them from the Y over to the school. Like, what if the Y was a school drop-off?
I think, I mean,
No, don't mess with the traffic in front of my house.
I know, but like, I mean, I feel like there might be some creative solutions here where.
Well, I really feel like the problem is, I think the school has done a lot to direct traffic and try to get things moving and stuff like that, but, I mean, the real problem is the school, especially primary and elementary, the parking lots for the school are designed like for 20 years ago. I mean, they can barely accommodate the trail of cars in and out, and all it takes is you get 20 cars lined up dropping kids off, and some of them are doing the hand your kids backpack and pack them lunch and all this stuff, and some people just say get out. But if there's no room for them to maneuver through there, it just keeps backing up out on the street. And I mean, that's, if we were really going to look at it, if the school utilized more of that triangle of land, you know, where they just have a skinny, especially the primary, they have a skinny, you know, like double parking lot there. If they utilized any more of that land for another row or anything like that, you would see that it probably wouldn't back up so quickly. But, you know, I mean, you can't ask them to re-engineer their driveway on a building that's, you know, built that long ago, but it's probably not the best planning on that.
When is the next school board meeting, do we know? I guess if we could find that out, I mean, I guess we're all free to show up and say, hey, you know, hey.
Well, I just seriously doubt the crossing guard is the reason for your traffic. No. I mean, you could have, the reason for the traffic problem is too small of an intersection. It's a supply versus demand.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got a half-inch pipe and you're trying to shove
Fire hose, yeah.
a fire hose worth of water down it, then everybody's just trying to be at the same place at the same time.
But I'd be interested to hear the school's response to the suggestion of staggered start times and why they think that won't work.
It's like 17th, School Board of Education monthly meeting, 6:30, 17th.
Okay. What time is it, where are those at, 7?
6:30 to 9:30 on October 17th.
Thank you.
I assume they meet in their
If I
administrative building.
Can I mention one other thing that I know Kyle and I have talked about, and maybe James was privileged to this too, but there's future plans for construction on the campus behind primary school. The bus barn that they currently lease from Clifton Naylor, they're eventually wanting to build a new bus barn behind the primary school and get out of that lease. And we pitched the idea to them, and they seem real open to the idea of actually putting a roadway that connects Liberty to Redtail, which would be another way of getting some of that traffic off of the main thoroughfare of Henry Clay and Liberty. So that might be another thing that the board could bring to the board.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we will move on. So no public hearings, no first readings, no old business. We've got 3 items for new business. The first one is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute the Missouri Department of Natural Resources financial financial assistance agreement in support of the ball field rehabilitation project. Staff report.
So this is regarding the ball field rehabilitation project, LWCF grant. When we first applied for that grant back in 2020, numbers were certainly much different than they are today. Those numbers, everything went up, and the grant authorizes a one-time 25% budget increase request. We made that request a few months back. It has been approved. So that will increase the total project budget to $103,128. It's a $10,313 increase in the funds received, but it also has that same, as a 50/50 grant, would require that same matching increase from the city. I've spoken with our treasurer about it. Those funds are available. And just for an example, the prefabricated restroom that is the largest part of that project, initially those numbers were utilized. It was $48,000, $45,000, somewhere there, and the board approved that purchase a few months back, or a couple months back, at $72,000 or $73,000. But there are other areas that we're able to reduce our expense with the project as a whole. You'll see one here in a moment, but that's essentially what's going on with this, and we need to have needs to be signed by the mayor and returned to the National Park Service ACF division.
Okay, any public comment on this? Okay, board questions or comments?
Assuming the park board's in favor of this.
Yes, so this was back a few months when it came in. We went ahead and applied for it, talked to the park board afterwards, and that was strictly just because of time, trying to get things rolling. Park board was in favor and on board with it then. Since this information has come in, we have not had a park board meeting. We're going ahead and moving forward with it just for a timeliness, and I will brief the board on that at the next meeting.
Cool. Any other comments? All right, we're going to vote. All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Need a motion.
Oh, sorry. Can I get a motion for the resolution? All right, Alderman Bradford makes the motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Alderman Lewis. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that resolution is approved. The next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the purchase of bleachers in support of the ball field rehabilitation project. Staff report.
So continuing on, with this project, we need to purchase a couple sets of safety enhanced bleachers to replace the old wooden ones that are there. We put this out for bid, and back in August, we received one bid back from that, and that bid was $13,654. Just watching the availability of the same bleachers with the same specifications, they can be purchased directly from Belson Outdoors at a cost of $10,431.41. That will, it'll be, again, being a 50/50 expense. The grant would fund half of that. The city, through our portion of the match, would fund the remainder, the 52, 15, 70 apiece. But it is staff recommendation to reject the bid from GT Grandstands and instead authorize the purchase of these bleachers direct from Belson Outdoors.
All right, any public comment? Okay, board comments and questions.
What's the difference in those prices? Did it have to do with, like, labor of, was that $13,000, did that include any labor? Or was that just?
No, sir, that is just for the materials and delivery.
Okay.
And, GT
So it's
Grandstands.
samples.
Yes, sir, it's, GT Grandstands, and it was interesting because GT Grandstands, it has a cooperative agreement through Tips Taps, which we're a member of. The pricing was similar to that Tips Taps pricing, but it's just, frankly, it's a poor cooperative agreement. There's not a whole lot of savings to be garnered there, and as a lesson that I was taught by Darla a couple of years back, cooperative agreements aren't always the best way to go, so I've been monitoring things a little bit closer.
All right, if we had to put this out for bid, how are we able to reject the bid and buy it directly from somebody else?
we could reject the bid just because we were able to purchase it cheaper elsewhere. We were required to put it out to bid, not under the grant program itself, but rather because of the expense being higher than the $5,000 that current city ordinance or state law allows. But once that competitive bid process has been completed, we've met that burden, and we can proceed by purchasing direct upon authorization of the board.
Okay.
And our attorney agrees.
Yes.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
Let's save some money.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve this resolution in support of the bleachers?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Alderman Bradford, second.
I'll second.
Second by Alderwoman Old. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the resolution passes. Moving on to item number 8C, a resolution authorizing the city treasurer to take administrative action to consolidate city accounts to a pooled cash account within fiscal year 2023. Staff report.
We are in the middle of our Tyler configuration for our financial software. We're gonna go live next week. One of the things that we have talked to Tyler about is a pooled cash account inside the financial software. We have, as you know, several CDs that are reserved for water, sewer, and the general fund. Interest on those CDs is very minimal. What Kyle and I would like to do with the board's permission is to be able to pool all of our accounts with the exception of the Friends of the City account, which is the 501c that has to stay separate, the police department evidence account, which does not accrue interest at all, and the charter protest account. We'd like to pool those into the main account in Central Bank of Boone County so they can participate in the sweep, thus gaining more interest than they are currently in their current positions, and being able to, manage them a little bit better in one institution versus every single financial institution in the city. The current rates on the River Region CDs are 0.449%. CD we have in Callaway is 0.03%. The CD that we have in Connections is 0.3%, and the sweep goes nightly at 3.4%, so it's a much better return. Now, all the pool cash, these will stay as reserve funds for the individual funds because we have to have reserves, especially for water and sewer for bonding capacity. But the interest that we get on the main and general accounts right now this month was $17,000. So they can participate in that sweep. We can divide the interest up between all of the different funds, and it'll be much easier for us to manage. And I do need to have a resolution. The banks won't allow us to withdraw and combine the funds until we have a board approval.
Okay. Any public comments? Seeing none, board questions or comments? None? All right, I will entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Alderwoman Old, a second.
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Wilson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that resolution passes. On to reports. The mayor is absent. Kyle, do you know if anything, Doris wanted to pass anything along?
Nothing at this point. He did, like I also received, and as the police department received, he did get one or two calls about Lakeside, but I'll kind of get into that under my report.
Okay, well, it's your turn, so you're up.
So Lakeside, obviously at the last meeting we had reported, they just wrapped up their first weekend. We had a number of complaints on Friday night of that weekend. The rest of the night was mostly quiet, but in response to that, Nick met with some reps from the various neighborhoods up there, met on site out at Lakeside, kind of talked through some of the issues, made some changes to how he's operating his movies out there and his events. Next weekend came and passed, no issues, no calls to 311 or anything like that. And then we came to this last weekend, and again, we saw 5 or 6 calls come in on Friday night. I don't think he had anything going on Saturday night, and then Sunday night, there was one call on Sunday night. So still trying to work through that, kind of letting Nick and those residents try and work through it together if they can without the city's involvement there. We've gone out there with our decibel meter and taken readings in response to all these calls, and he's operating well within his limits. So, you know, as far as the board is concerned with the conditional use permit, he's still meeting the requirements that we placed on him.
Are all of the, calls about noise or any traffic, just noise?
Just noise.
Okay.
So, I don't think we've had, I think the very first weekend, someone drove all the way down Log Providence and had to turn around down there, but other than that, there hasn't been any traffic issues out there. Other than that, I know at the last meeting I talked about the ward map update. We're still kind of working through that. We had John create a legal description for that so that the city attorneys can draft the ordinance, and then we'll kind of start working through the steps there. Contacting the county to talk about voter rolls and all that would need to be updated should the board choose to adopt that ward map update. And that is all I have.
Okay, city attorney's report.
No report.
Police chief's report.
Well, I didn't have a report, and I was gonna talk about Lakeside Ashland, but Kyle stole my thunder on that one, so unless anybody wants specific readings from the decibel meters or anything like that, I've got nothing to report.
Is it getting close to the limit, or is it
So,
still under?
I can't tell you exactly what has happened with the other, I mean, they've gone out there and taken measurements, I know that, and they've been well within, you know, the limits. But last Friday night, I worked late because of homecoming and just to kind of get out and do police work, every now and again. And I ended up handling all of Friday night's peace disturbance complaints out there, and, I don't remember how many there were somewhere between 5 and a dozen complaints that night. And when I went out there, I took measurements from Route H and 63, when there wasn't any traffic along the highway, and it was well below 75 until a car went by, and then it would jump up into the 80s. At the entrance, it was, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 68 decibels at where Log Providence intersects with it, and then down at 5502 East Log Providence Road, it ranged from like 59 to 64, which that is the point where it's to be measured as per the permit, the special use permit. And then further on down the road, the noise level was even less, as one might imagine. And some of the residents that called in wanted contact, so I called every one of them, and the ones that would actually answer the phone, had diplomatic conversations with 2 out of the 3 that answered the phone, and the third one, not so much. But at any rate, it's...
Does some of it depend on the weather?
I mean, yeah, I'm not a scientist or a physicist or anything like that, but yeah, daytime and nighttime, there's certainly a difference in how far sound will travel. It travels further at night, and then obviously if you've got, you know, humidity or moisture in the air, that's gonna slow the sound waves down quite a bit too. So a nice, cool, crisp night, it's gonna travel a little bit further. Nevertheless, the actual amplification of the sound is, you know, not leaving there at a rate higher than what they're allowed, so.
So I'm hearing that Friday night that they had Hocus Pocus, and Hocus Pocus 2 was louder than the Chiefs game on Sunday. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard of. A bunch of witches were louder than a bunch of football players.
Have you seen Hocus Pocus 2 yet?
Not yet, but I'm waiting.
But it could be the weather in the daytime and nighttime. I'm just thinking
I'm
like...
wondering if it's the cars.
Oh, yeah. When I lived in Jeff City, I know, like, we were like we were down by West Main Pizza, like, all the way a mile and a half away. And every once in a while, out of the blue, there'd be a concert downtown, which usually I couldn't hear at all, but I mean, I could hear the bass just, like, you know, it would wake me up. I'd be like, what is that? And I realized, oh, there's a concert going on, but it was intermittent, right? And so I'm just wondering if...
And a lot of times bass is what you'll hear further away, but
Yeah.
when I drove out there Friday night, you know, had the windows down, you know, because hanging a decibel meter out the window, but all you could hear is the audio, the spoken language of the movie. You couldn't, like, the music didn't seem loud to me until, of course, I spent a little bit of time taking measurements actually on site there too, and it's pretty loud on site, but, I mean, all of it was under 80 decibels, even on site, so.
Speaking of loud, my fat finger, loud ass typing was answering your question.
Okay.
All right, so.
I know weather does have
yeah.
something to do with it, but you know, it was last week, I was outside in the morning, and it was a little bit overcast, and the wind was blowing to the north, and I could hear every word of the primary school's morning announcement. And so, you know, the solution is go inside.
Well, that's.
Let's put Alderman Lewis on
All right, anything else for the police chief, police, no? Okay.
No, sorry.
Board of Aldermen report, Alderman Volkart, you can go first.
I didn't have anything, but I was just curious, has Nick done any, because wasn't there gonna be some landscaping or some trees or some things that he was gonna try to do to also prevent the sound from carrying? Does anybody kind of remember those?
All I remember was that he wasn't taking some of them down, he was leaving some of them up, and that was a concern that people thought he was gonna take them all out.
And I don't know if that's also since the side closest to that neighborhood is technically not developed still, you know, he has plans for the other side. I was just curious, thinking about that, and if there's anything that
I mean, he did say he's gonna try and adjust his speakers a little bit to further point them away from that neighborhood. I mean, right now, they're all pointed right at the parking lot, but it's still finding its way off to the northwest.
We fully encourage a big hotel to block the sound and direct it away, right?
Well, they're just build a wall or something, you know what I mean, like.
Or a giant hotel.
There you go.
All right, anything else?
No.
Okay, Alderman Bradford.
Nothing.
Alderwoman Old.
No report.
I did have, some folks talk to me about school traffic. I'll get back with them about kind of both what we discussed today. I think I'm out of town for the school board meeting, but I'll try to reach out to those folks. And then I also had someone else talk to me about, was it traffic on Y, I guess?
Yeah.
And you and I kind of looked at that, and right now there's just no good solutions, but apparently in the morning,
It's
really backed up.
it's like just what I said, is that on Silver Snipe, if you don't make it in time, the traffic is backed up past that. But it usually is a dump truck, FedEx truck, something bigger, or, you know, the Pepsi guy leaving Mosier's. It's usually something bigger that can't get in the roundabout as quickly while everybody else is zooming around. That usually causes that,
Okay.
I feel like. I mean, 9 times out of 10.
I mean, it's the same thing going to Jeff City. If you miss that like 3-minute window and you leave 5 minutes later trying to get across the bridge, you're backed up forever and you might as well just wait.
I mean, if everybody went to those roundabouts at 20 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour.
Or 50.
Yeah, but if they went around at 15 miles an hour,
Yeah.
I mean, you can fit, a semi could get into the roundabout, but just, there's several of those that are on 2 wheels, and they're just, a dump truck's not gonna be able to go.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, most of my stuff was about traffic. Alderman Wilson.
No report.
Alderman Lewis.
I just wanted to get one clarification back with the bleachers that we voted on.
Okay.
Did we need to actually vote to reject that?
It was all
bid?
in.
Or was that all
Yeah,
taken care of?
it was all in the resolution.
Okay, because the way when I jumped down to the bottom of it, I knew it was discussed at the top, but I didn't see the rejection in the actual resolution, so.
Yeah, I think it's in the resolution that Darla had typed up, but.
Okay. The only other thing I had a question about is our population signs. When do those get adjusted? Because it's still showing
They don't do those anymore.
They don't do those anymore? So
It's
we
too
still
hard to
got-
keep up.
We've still got the old ones on there that are from, like...
The option is take them down or buy them on our own if we want.
Can we find out how much they
Moderately
cost?
Oh, I can do that pretty easily, that's no problem. Right now, we've,
Can't do a
depending
sticker
on,
on top?
you know,
A reflective sticker that...
I would happily do that. I think that MoDOT would be upset if we did that. They're just, and not to be super critical of MoDOT, I understand there's a ton of cities in the state, and every 10 years, they all want their numbers updated. That's a fairly large undertaking. we've been in contact with MoDOT about various signage opportunities along the 63 corridor and the city limits, and, you know, some overpass beautification. So we'll discuss that with Kirsten about what options we have. Getting those signs, that expense, you know, you're probably looking at maybe $100 per sign. It's not gonna be anything that's crazy, and we're gonna look at updating it, every 10 years when we have a census?
I think you could find a community donor that would cover that.
Did y'all's population bump up, I take it then?
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yep.
By thousands.
Thousands,
Yeah.
All right,
They're still showing like, what, 3,200?
3,400.
and we're at 48.
Just depends per the census number, we're above 40, we're above 5,000.
There's an ongoing debate on the radio between whether Ashland's bigger or Centralia. Who takes the second place in Boone County?
Ashland does by like 20 people.
Yes. But I would
And
like to
by
get it
area.
official. I would pay for that sign.
Yeah, that sign.
The award officially.
Second largest city in Boone County.
Oh, yeah, can we add that? Boone County's second largest city? Okay, we're gonna add that.
I know who's the donor.
I'm gonna
Just
win
these
this
streetcars.
person. All right, any general comments by the public or anyone else? Okay, before we adjourn, I would like to do like a calendar call between today and the next Alderman meeting. Are there things that we should, as Alder people, be aware of and needing to attend?
Well, there's Pumpkin Fest this weekend.
Okay, Hartsburg Pumpkin Fest.
You're gonna pay $5 to get parked in a cornfield. And then there's Roots and Blues this weekend too, I think, or is it next? Yeah.
That's this weekend.
Yeah.
Are y'all open on Columbus Day?
We are.
Okay, anything in Ashland that we need to know for the next 2 weeks? What
There's a band competition parade coming up,
Oh,
but I
that's
don't
the
think it's,
15th.
yeah, I was gonna say that's, may not be before the,
There's a chili cook-off coming up at the airport.
Oh, that's right, in support of the Y.
So Kyle put together the new calendar for events so that, everyone on the board can see that and be aware, and I added that, when I get a free minute, I'm gonna go put like home football games and things like that, that'll really,
that is before the next board meeting.
The Show Me Cook-Off or the band thing?
The band thing?
And that's something that we could probably all share, because there'll be street closures associated with
Yes.
it, right? Okay.
So that chili cook-off's on the 15th.
Now, on the note of that, the street closures are,
Well,
basically Broadway's gonna be closed for a couple of hours. But we're
what day is that?
Saturday the 15th,
okay, is there
I'll
gonna
be
be,
gone.
are you gonna put out like a map or something?
yeah.
Okay, and when you do that?
We're gonna detour cars, you know, around it. And the reason is, we just don't have enough personnel to open and close, you know, between every band. So basically, we're working with the school. They've got volunteers that are gonna be taking care of things on the lesser traveled roadways, and, then we're gonna be taking care of Broadway.
Is it from Ashland Baptist to Maine, or? is
Yeah,
it
basically,
further?
their staging point is gonna be the park, and so they're starting over at the high school, they'll walk over through the park, and then they'll assemble, each band will assemble in the park, and then walk down to College and Broadway, which is where they actually begin marching for the competition part, and then march from there to Main Street and go north on Main Street. So, we're gonna take all the eastbound Broadway traffic and route them down Church to Johnson around, and then back up. And then any westbound traffic is gonna go north on College, and they're gonna keep the band as far off the side as they can to allow for a little bit of westbound traffic. So,
Okay.
I anticipate it'll be a mess.
When you post that map, if we could all get like an email that just says like, hey, it's on social media, please share. I think that would be helpful in just getting the word out, because I, for one, know that I was trapped for a minute, even though I should have known, last year. I was like trapped in the middle or something of the parade. It didn't work. But we can help you try to get the word out to try to keep people calm.
It'd be nice, because people get upset when they can't get around the parade.
Yeah, for sure. And we had like double events. I'm forgetting, we had some other thing going on on the same day last year. That was anything else? I think we've got some events following the next meeting between that and the end of the month, so we can go over there, but I think it's just helpful for folks to know what's going on, so. And yeah, thanks for sending all of the meeting invites on the Outlook, I think that's working, and it's really helpful, so. All right, motion to adjourn,
I'll make that motion.
okay?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned.